All right, chaps, let's kick the donkey.
Hello, loopers. We're going to talk about keel depth, mast stepping, and why motorboats hate us so much as we sail the Great Loop. First, we'll talk about keel depth. We have a Beneteau 343, 34 feet, has a 4.9 keel, so 5 foot, and we also have our mast is 50 foot high. So as far as the keel depth goes, we went through the Dismal Swamp, we went on the intercoastal side of the Gulf Coast up to Key, from Marathon to Key Largo. We were in shallow water everywhere, and we hardly hit any time. We did hit some sandbars, but we were able to either plow through them or back off. But as we went through the Dismal Swamp, there's a boat in front of us that had a 5'4" keel, and he'd phone back and he'd say, "Oh, I just hit," and then we'd go over the same spot and didn't hit. I think that if you have a 5 foot keel or less, you're not going to have any problems. We never had to phone towboat US or get towed off anything. So we were quite fortunate that way. 5 foot keel. So as far as our mast goes, there's two types. There's the deck step, where your mast sits on top of the deck, and the keel step, where your mast goes right down and sits on the keel. We have a deck step. So when we take our mast down, it's about 45 feet long, 46 feet long. And so we carry our mast. A keel stepped, that can add an extra few feet onto the bow and the stern of the boat. So when we took our mast down, we have about 4 feet hanging off the stern and 4 feet hanging over the bow. That makes it convenient for us. Just quick review of the loop and where we took our mast down. So we started up here in Brockville, and we on the St. Lawrence River, and we went down and we put our mast back up in Midland, and that's a place called Bayport, just near the Port Severn. Then we went through Georgian Bay, the North Channel, Lake Michigan to Chicago, and in Chicago we took our mast down at Jackson Park for about $200. Crowley's is the other popular spot, and then Crowley's will ship your mast for $2,000 all the way down to Mobile. And in Mobile, we went to Turner's, and Turner's charged about $400 to put our mast back up. Once it's up, though, we were pretty well set all the way up to Albany area. At Albany, there's Hoppin' O's for about $300 or $400, and then there's also Castleton Boat Club, which is $100. But you take the mast down yourself. So best to get a buddy or some other people who are doing the same thing and help them out so they can help you out. Overall, we're looking at about $1,600 in mast up and down. If you live in the US on the East Coast or anywhere around there, you're taking your mast down twice and putting it up twice. So that's about it. So we took it down in Brockville, at where we stay at a yacht club. They have a crane, so we just for free took it down there, and then we headed over to Trenton and up the Trent Severn Seaway canal system, and we put it up at, you kind of come through Port Severn, and then there's Midland and Penetanguishene, but we put it up in Midland at a place called Bayport. And we're looking at $300 Canadian, is like $200 American. Then we sailed all the way to Chicago, and Chicago we took our mast off at a place called Jackson Park, and it was a yacht club, and it was $200 US. And but our other option was to go to Crowley's and take the mast off for $300 or $400. They would ship the mast down to Mobile for $2,000. So for $2,000, you could ship your mast down to Turner's in Mobile, in the Gulf of Mexico. And they put it up in Mobile at Turner's for about $400. Farther south you go, the higher the price is. So just for instance, on the Erie Canal, we were 90 cents a foot at a marina. And in the Keys, you're looking at $4 to $5 a foot to dock your boat. Anyway, so Chicago, we took our mast down to Jackson Park, put it on our boat, headed down, no problems. We actually went through downtown Chicago with our mast on. We cleared all the bridges and got to see the great sights. That's epic. It's epic to take your boat down through Chicago. A lot of people, they have that keel step mast, so your mast is hanging 6 feet over the bow and 6 feet over the stern, and it's a little tight when you're going into locks and things like that. In Mobile, get your mast up, then basically you can sail all the way to New York City, up the Hudson to around Albany. And at Albany, you're looking at a couple of options. There's the hop a nose, which would be a $300-400 take your mast down. Or we went to Castleton Boat Club, and you could take the mast down yourself for $100. So it's great to show up there with at least one other boat, and so you can help them and they can help you take your mast down. Because our mast 45 feet long and quite heavy. Takes at least four people. Took it down to Crowley's, and then basically if you're leaving from Maryland or Texas, whatever, I would just leave your mast down when you get to Lake Ontario, cross Lake Ontario and head to Trenton, and then Trent Severn, and then in Port Severn, Midland area in Georgian Bay, I put my mast back up there. Because to put it up in Oswego, and then pretty well 5 or 6 days, you're taking it down again. So just leave it down, and that means that if you live in the U.S., Texas to New York, you're only taking your mast down twice when you do the Great Loop. The last point is about mast height. So basically our mast is 50 feet, and we could get under almost every bridge. We had to go out into the Gulf of Mexico from Pensacola to just past Panama City. And that's because there are a couple of bridges that are 50 feet. Once you get past Panama City, almost all of the bridges are 65 feet, except for one, which is 56 feet. It's in Florida somewhere, and it basically, the engineer got dyslexia. Instead of doing 65, he did 56. That's kind of the joke about that one. At Cape May, there's a couple of bridges that are 55 feet. You can watch the tide. The tide goes up and down about 4 feet or so. So if you want a lot of clearance or squeak by, you can make through most bridges as long as as long as your mast isn't 65 feet. Then I'd be like worried every time I went under a bridge and have to check the tide and so on. 50 foot, just kept our eye out for the odd bridge that was 55 foot. So everything went really well. So a 5-foot keel, 50 to 55 foot mast, and you're laughing. You can go just about anywhere you want. Just some other advantages of taking your sailboat. You're always going about 6 knots, 5 to 6 knots. The motor vessels doing the loop, they usually do 8 to 10 knots. So you never have to wait for a lock, because everyone's in the lock waiting for you to come. And so you're last in, they close the doors, and away you go. And that just repeats itself in the Trent Severn for 44 locks, and down the Mississippi and Illinois and all those other places. Yep, you just putt around the corner and hop in the lock, and away you go. Yeah, if you're traveling with a bunch of motorboats and doing lots of locks on the river systems and canals, yeah, they don't like you, and sometimes they get up really early and try and sneak out of the marina, so that you kind of get left behind, and doesn't always work. So yeah, they try and get away from you. They hate us. They hate us because they have to wait in the locks for us. Anyway, that's how it goes. Chat soon. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit all the buttons you can. And tell other people about it. Thanks a lot. Bye.